Honourable members, at this special meeting of the Legislative Council in honour of the Speaker of the House of Commons, Sir Lindsay Hoyle MP, being the first sitting Speaker of the Commons to visit the St. Helena Overseas Territory, we will focus on the 10th meeting of Ministers' Question Time. The topic chosen by councillors is priority areas for 2024-2025. In accordance with our standing orders, the Chief Minister was made aware of the topic ahead of this meeting, and an hour before Ministers' Question Time commencing, the questions submitted by councillors were forwarded to ministers. According to established practice, the order paper will be published on the SHG website this morning. There are 7 questions on the order paper. They have been listed in alphabetical order, but to be selected randomly for response. Up to 1 hour has been allocated for questions and answers. All questions are directed to the Chief Minister, but she may elect to delegate one of her ministers, to provide an answer, depending on the portfolio the question relates to. Honourable members and members of the public will be aware standing orders have been amended to remove the limitation of members in respect of the number of supplementary questions they can ask. This also means it is possible for other ministers to give support when questions are being answered. For those not familiar with the method for members wanting to catch the Speaker's eye, we operate a system whereby a red light is switched on to indicate a member wishes to speak. Unless you are rising on a point of order or information, please don't draw my attention when someone is speaking. That could interrupt someone else speaking, which is an infringement of Rule 2, Rule 15, I do beg your pardon. Ms. Shanice Phillips is our clerk and timekeeper for this Minister's Question Time. Ms. Phillips, may we have the first question, please?
The Honourable Dr. Corinda Essex.
The Honourable Dr. Corinda Essex.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before putting my question, I wish to declare my interest as President of the St. Helena Chamber of Commerce and also as a retailer and importer. Mr. Speaker, will the Honourable Minister state what are the current and proposed components of the development plan to establish an enabling environment for private sector development, to which the Honourable Chief Minister alluded in her Christmas message?
Honourable Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I think in response to both speakers here in the House, we'd like to also extend a warm welcome to the Right Honourable Sir Lindsay Hoyle. It's been a pleasure having you with us, sir. Right, on to the matter of business, and hello to all the listeners and those present in the chambers today. As Dr. Essex, Councillor Essex has mentioned, we have published our priorities for 2024, and it's a continuation of our vision. So our strategic objectives for 2024 goes on to look at immigration options. So we are busy with that at present, and I'm not going to go into all of the details, noting that there are other of the questions that will follow. But we will be continuing with the options for policy to facilitate the opening up of the island and population growth, in particular that of the working population. Education reforms are there, including undertaking a primary school review and an overhaul of all policies and procedures that will inform a revised education ordinance and a more productive economy. We are considering targeted tax relief to households and businesses in a way that promotes economic development, whilst considering other sources of tax, example, possibly on land and property and fees and charges to offset this cost and broaden the revenue base. Outcome monitoring and prioritization to support Cabinet's planning and to provide an evidence base of impact. This will support cost efficiency, organizational efficiency, and effectiveness in delivering equitable development through service delivery and economic policies. Monitoring capacity issues in the public service and the impact of SHG salaries, which are at a historic low. It is difficult for the public service to address the salary issue given budget constraints. Also, with respect to what Councillor Essex specifically asked about private sector development, I think it is clear to mention that immigration is one of them. We have made some progress with regards to improved connectivity, allowing businesses to be able to operate in a more durable system and robust system. There's work still to be done in this area, but at least we're moving in the right direction. We're hoping to make more land available for development, but I must state here that making the land available for development is part of the priority for this government, but not necessarily providing. It's the private sector then that will need to take the initiative to be able to then utilize the land that becomes available. Renewable energy remains one of our priorities, and I know that Minister Sippy would be able to provide some more information on this. A lot of work has gone on since last year in respect of bringing in energy policies, and we've been doing quite a lot of work in trying to get consultants in now to be able to assist us in moving the renewable energy projects forward. And of course, access. Air access is something that we've worked on. We're in the midst right now of having 2 flights per week. That will come to an end at the end of this month, but we'll do everything that we can to ensure that we try and build an economy so that access can continue, we would hope, beyond our summer months, and ensure that we can continue to encourage more people to visit St. Helena. I think we all know, however, that some of the flights that came in during the 2 flights per week was not all as successful as we would have hoped, and will be another financial constraint on this government to cover the loss that some of those costs, some of those flights will have brought to us. Sea access, we look forward to receiving Max as our shipping contractor as of next month. So all of these things coming together is trying to build an environment, an enabling environment, so St. Helena can prosper. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Chief Minister. Honourable Dr. Corinda Essex.
Thank you very much for your response, Chief Minister. Can you please indicate which of these work streams is likely to be put into operation first?
Honourable Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I think with access, we're obviously doing that right now. Renewable energy is going to take some time. We have said that we hope that this will be in place for 2027-28. Connectivity is obviously in place in some form right now, but there's lots of work still to be done. So within the next 18 months, know what we're doing for the future, because the current agreement with our telecoms provider was for 18 months from October of last year. Immigration, we would like to hope that in the new financial year 24-25, it is our aspiration to have the immigration policy up and running. And I'd say, without putting any more strain on Minister Alec, that we would like to hope that that will be implemented in April, May. So that's early part of the year. With the other work streams that I mentioned, Honourable Essex, would be a lot of dependence on the financial aid budgets, which we don't know the outcome of as yet, with regards to how we go forward with regards to monitoring the capacity and looking at reforms for health and education, etc. So this is all aid dependent as well. There is work ongoing with the tax relief, and I know that is something that the tax working group will be looking at as we go forward into 24-25. But obviously, as I said, it is very much financial aid dependent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Dr. Corinda Essex.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With regard to land availability, I believe the current land disposal policy is currently under review. Can you please briefly outline what progress has been made with that and the time scale before its conclusion?
Thank you. Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it was only fair that I pass this on to Minister Brooks because it is something that I know he's been working very hard on at the moment. Thank you.
Honourable Minister Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and a warm welcome to Sir Lindsay Hoyle, who is joining us here today. Yes, as the Chief Minister mentioned, the land disposal policy is under reform, so we're looking at a new policy that will be called the Land Disposal and Purchase Policy, because it also takes into account when government requires land or purchases land for future needs. So this policy has been in development for some time now. It started when we had our new head of property in post, John Holman, probably almost 2 years ago now, or best part of 18 months. And there's a lot of work that's been done in engaging with key stakeholders. We've also did some consultation with the Chamber of Commerce, as well as Cabinet, and as well as elected members, to design this policy that will meet the needs of the island going forward. This policy at the moment is in the final stages. We've already had back from the AG's chambers or legal advice, and we are updating some bits of that policy to reflect the advice from the AG's chambers. We should have the final draft completed, taking into consideration all the feedback from including the AG's chambers by the end of this month, so by the end of February. And that will then be shared with all elected members. So again, we will have chance to feed into that before it goes out for public consultation. And there will be a consultation plan which will also be attached to that policy, so members can also have sight of that, and we will put together some comms so that we inform the public when we'll be coming out to get as much sort of attendance as possible and views across the community. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister Brooks. Next question, please.
The Honourable Ronald Coleman.
The Honourable Ronald Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the Chief Minister tell this House if there would be any enhanced benefits for St. Helena in respect of developing the island's infrastructure now that a new joint declaration has been agreed by the UK government and elected leaders of British overseas territories?
Thank you very much, Honourable Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I'd like to be able to hope that there will be benefits in everybody signing up to a new joint declaration, but it is early days, and I must say that, because we know that the next step would be to focus on the compacts, which is the detail for each territory. And I think until that is done and we really understand the similarities, but also the challenges that might be dissimilar in different OTs, it's difficult to talk about. There's not been anything to confirm that there will be developing islands infrastructure. I must make that very clear. That's more something that comes under the Egypt program. But as we've now signed that new joint declaration, the next step is the compacts. And as I said, I know that, as Sir Lindsay has also mentioned, there is value in the OTs working together and obviously in collaboration with the FCDO. So there's more work that we need to do in respect of that so that we become a stronger and louder voice within the UK Parliament. But I think until we actually get the compact as well to give some meat, if I can say that, to some weight to the actual joint declaration, it would be difficult for me to say exactly what specific benefits we will have. But as I keep saying, the UK, in collaboration with the overseas territory governments who are not financially self-sufficient, so that would include St. Helena, will continue to prioritise the financial support to enable the development of our economies. So there is support there, but actually how that looks in detail is not known at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Chief Minister. Honourable Ronald Coleman.
Just to thank the Minister for that reply. Thank you, sir.
Very much. Honourable Robert Midwinter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, obviously the Chief Minister wasn't able to say anything in relation to infrastructure, but during her discussions, for example, at JNC, were there any discussions around continuation of schemes such as the Darwin Plus scheme?
Thank you. Honourable Chief Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Midwinter, for your question. We'd like to hope that all those schemes will continue, but actually we were focusing very much on the joint declaration. We didn't speak specifically about any particular projects. Blue Belt is another one that we will hope will continue. We are in a very precarious position at the moment because obviously we know that the UK is due for elections soon, and changing of government might change different projects that's coming available. But as you rightly said, we would like to hope that Darwin in some form or other will definitely continue along with Blue Belt or any of the other ocean funding schemes that we are aware of now and new ones that's coming along. But I wouldn't want to commit to the fact what they will look like. But I think the UK government and definitely FCDO understands how much we depend on those schemes of funding to be able to ensure that we protect both our marine or blue and green agendas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question, please.
The Honourable Rosemary Bargo.
The Honourable Rosemary Bargo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Honourable Chief Minister tell this House what actions are being taken by her government to support the development of a vibrant financial service sector on the island?
Thank you very much, Honourable Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank the Honourable Rosemary Bargo for the question. As everybody should know by now, financial services obviously comes under the portfolio of Minister Brooks, Treasury and Economic Development. So I will hand over to Minister Brooks, but I will just give an overview of the things that we are looking to focus on when we speak of financial services sector. So we are looking for expertise to support the delivery of the sector on the island with a focus on 5 key areas. That's the development of a beneficial ownership register, modernisation of the Bank of St. Helena, reform of financial services law and regulations, legal recognition of decentralised autonomous organisations, DAOs, and the reform of company law, which will include looking at developing the company's registry, in particular to focus on those that have high environmental, social and governance values. Minister Brooks, if there's anything you'd like to speak about specifically, then I'd invite you to give your view.
Thank you very much. Honourable Brooks. Minister Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think the Chief Minister touched on the key objective that we're concentrating on over the next financial year. But I think just to give some context as to this project and how we got there. We started this journey, as you know, quite some time ago. We're at the very beginning of our tenure. And we've done some scoping exercise, and then my honourable members will remember the X-ray report. That was a feasible study on what financial services or niche opportunities the island could take advantage of. We also, from that, did also an outreach campaign to talk to industry experts and get their views on how to develop a financial services on St. Helena. A part of that stakeholder engagement was also a visit to Gibraltar to understand their sort of financial services and law reforms. We also, as the Chief Minister spoke about, decentralised autonomous organisations or systems, as some people call them, and they leverage sort of blockchain technology to coordinate their activities. And that was a niche opportunity that was identified by XREG, and we have now engaged with a consultant called Legal Nodes, who is developing policy options for this government to take forward in the next coming years. Members has seen or is familiar with this work and have met the consultants when they were on Ireland late last year. As the Chief Minister alluded to, there's also a raft of company laws that need reviewing and the legislation around our legal frameworks. Important part of this too, which is not necessarily within the gifts of my portfolio, is the data protection ordinance. We do need that in place to give any businesses or anyone outside who wants to do business with St. Helena the reassurance that we have, the necessarily means to protect their data in place. As the Chief Minister said, there's a beneficial ownership policy which is at its very final stage for policy options, and that will be coming to AXCO, I would think, in a few weeks' time. So look forward to that, my colleagues. Yes, so we have recognized that there is an opportunity. We have focused on in a few areas that we think we can achieve. There's a lot of work that has been done, but as the Chief Minister said, we cannot move forward with this unless we have an adequate budget to employ the professional people to take this work forward. We struggle with all types of sort of professionalism on St. Helena through our labour market because we just don't have the range of people that we have in other jurisdictions. So we have to import these very expensive skills, and we need a budget to do that. And so we're hoping that come the end of this month we'll get our answer from FCDO, which will allow us to put some project funding deliberately to this project so that we can move forward with it. It's a lot of work to be done, a lot of reforms by very specialist people. But we have, as this government, made a good start, I feel, and we are on the road to a sort of an outcome that we feel will make a difference for the revenue collected through government and also for new businesses setting up in St. Helena. And of course the ripple effects of that employs people and obviously pays taxes and everything else. So I think I'll leave it there. And thank you for the question, my honourable friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you.
Barger.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Chief Minister and Minister Brooks. Minister Brooks, can you say what anticipated financial impact such services will have on the SHE's revenue?
Thank you. Honourable Minister Brooks.
Well, as I said, my honourable friend has alluded to before, we have put in a budget for some project work, and this is part of that budget. So this will almost be a ring-fenced budget for this work. So it won't take away from other services. The issue is that if we don't get that budget, what we're going to do? Are we going to pull money from other services to deliver on this? That is something, or some hard decisions this government needs to take. And I do share the frustrations of the student that just made a very powerful speech here. And we are in the same boat. We're waiting to hear whether we can move forward with some of these works. And it's becoming obviously more frustrating for us as a government when we're just sort of working from year to year and not having a 3-year settlement or a 3-year budget, which will allow us to plan a lot more better. But that's where we are. We can only do what we can do. As Chief Minister, we are at the mercy of financial aid, and we have to work within those means. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Rosemary Barger.
Thank you. Minister Brooks, I was asking if you have any idea of what expected revenue, you're likely to get. I understand the expenses and the implication on the budget, but have you done your work as into what is the expected revenue you would have on these new services? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister Brooks.
So thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Member for her question. In the scoping exercise, we do have some sort of indications of what revenues other industries or other countries are making from financial services. There's a whole range of financial services, so it's hard to pin down exactly, areas that we can compare to. It all depends on where we go in the policy direction, as I talked about before, in relation to decentralized autonomous and modernizations of the bank and also reforms in our financial regulations and services. If you look at Pacific areas, so with the Dow project, there has been some predictions by the consultant in how much we can charge in our companies register for fees and so on, and that is expected in this first year to bring in something like £500,000, but obviously as we grow that revenue will grow, but it all depends on obviously attracting the companies here in the first place, and that is why it's very important to get the right legal framework in place and the right environment so that these companies are attracted to St. Helena. So it's very hard to predict, but it is something that we recognize that not just this government, but also with our legal teams, our legal experts, and also our scoping out exercise by our professional consultants, that it is something that potentially could make a revenue that changes the direction of services on the island, or in particular the services that we are able to offer as a government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move on. Next question, please.
The Honourable Call Thrower.
The Honourable Call Thrower.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could the Honourable Chief Minister inform this House about the measures being implemented to ensure an adequate supply of affordable housing in anticipation of the expected population growth resulting from plans to recruit more overseas workers to address the current workforce shortages?
Thank you very much. Honourable Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think for this one, it wasn't set as a priority for 2024, but it is in collaboration with the work that Minister Brooks is doing in respect of how we go forward with making land available through the land disposal policy that he made reference to as well. But I think what I would say before handing over to Minister Brooks is that obviously making land available
new properties, I think if you can make better use of the current properties, then you can solve some of the issues that we're having on the island. As the Chief Minister mentioned, there's CDA, so there are comprehensive development areas that has been earmarked by the government for development, and there are CDAs that are currently out for sale or for development right now. Within the property disposal and purchase policy, we are widening the criteria for first-time buyers, giving access to more people than ever before to have affordable land or get access to affordable land. But of course that will come with conditions. You would have to use that land for a specific purpose, which is to build a house, and in a certain time frame. So we're doing all we can. Obviously, again, I have to mention budget, because everything we try to do, we have to try and do on a shoestring budget. And we have a small team in property as well as sustainable development, but we are working towards making land more accessible and the process in obtaining that land more streamlined, more simpler. But as the Chief Minister said, it's really for the private sector to grasp that opportunity and develop on that land for their own benefit and for the benefit of this island. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Dr. Corinne Essex.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Honourable Minister say what steps are going to be taken if it's expected for the private sector to become heavily involved to ensure that processes, procedures, contracts, etc. are made readily available at a high standard, consistently and comprehensively, to enable the private sector to actually take on these initiatives without then coming across a great number of obstacles and difficulties during the process.
Thank you very much. Honourable Minister Brooks.
So I can talk about two areas here, Mr. Speaker. One of the areas is obviously our business environment. Obviously, navigating some members of the public will call SHG's red tape. Now, I do have, as I mentioned before, a small sustainable development team, and part of the objective of that team, and it's a high priority because it's one of the first pieces of work stream they are working on, is to make that collaboration, that touch point, a lot more accessible and a lot more easy to navigate. So those are things we're doing, but it's generally across the board. It's not necessarily just for people who require land, but also people who want just business advice, and they want to know specifically on incentives that this government is offering businesses that access on St. Helena. As I said earlier, we have put in a budget, submitted a budget for 24-25, and in that budget is an ask for another post that will sit under head of property. And that person will be specifically dedicated to actually forming that environment that makes the transition between government and the private sector a lot more easy in terms of our crown assets, our land, and our properties. We sometimes feel that we are not prepared when we get asked a question by an investor or by a local business. So we want to be prepared. And so what the first piece of work that they will do will be looking at putting together information packs, so that when anyone requires about a piece of land or a property or a building, we can hand over that information to them that hopefully will contain all the necessary documents and information that they will require. It also helps us to then approach a property agent or some sort of what shall I say, property developer, so that we can look specifically at areas that could be developed and have the information to hand that those property developers would like. And again, selling our properties international, if we can get obviously a modernized government website, all these touch points will be on that website, so that we can then, so that the rest of the world can then interact with what is happening on St. Helena through a digital platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Just to remind you, we've got less than 19 minutes left. There's 3 more questions to be answered if they need to be answered. But I call now on Councillor Honourable Carl Schroer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for my honourable friend for his answer. However, it does kind of worry me that everything we just discussed was about building more properties. I think also what we need to look at is exactly what we did with Basil Reed, where we actually encourage people to rent out the many hundreds of empty properties we've got. And maybe we need to start looking at the problem with building new properties. It takes a long time. But you're on about bringing out more workforce for these empty posts starting or trying to start this year. Why don't we look at encouraging people through tax breaks and things like that to rent out the properties that are already empty on the island?
Thank you very much. Response, Honourable Minister Brooks.
Yes, I'm not sure if my honourable friend was listening to my entire answer to that question, but I wasn't just talking about building new properties. I talked about taking a corporate approach as a landlord and better utilising the properties we already have. So I think that will answer your question.
Thank you very much. Next question, please.
The Honourable Robert Midwinter.
The Honourable Robert Midwinter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, firstly, I would also like to make a declaration of interest because I am a member of the SHAPE Board of Directors. Mr. Speaker, will the Honourable Chief Minister tell this Council what reforms she is proposing to bring forward within the education sector in order to improve the standards of teaching, whilst also providing additional support to the increasing number of learners with special educational needs and disabilities and social, emotional and mental health needs?
Thank you very much. And just before you answer the question, Honourable Chief Minister, I've just been informed you've got about 26 minutes left, so a bit more than I said to you earlier on. Honourable Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't propose to speak for 26 minutes on this. But I do think it would be good for some background on this. I know that the Honourable Robert Midwinter will be very much aware of SEND and SEMH. So SEND being special educational needs and social, emotional and mental health. I think also, though, credit needs to be given to the education portfolio for some of the things that's already been done in this financial year. So we have established an inclusion service to support schools and students with their specific needs. We're increasing the number of staff in that service, which includes having dedicated teaching assistants to support the students with profile needs and having an alternative education support assistance available to them. And then obviously it's the alternative education program that's also come into place. We've sourced offshore support through the Hampshire County Council Partnership link with Health and Social Care. This is enabling distance training for all TAs, teaching assistants that is, in October of 22 and support to improving English in the secondary school. We've supported staff members to develop in the play therapy and offer this in primary schools, and we've established emotional literacy support assistants, ELSAs, in schools to support children with low levels of SEMH. We've implemented intervention programs to support specific needs, such as using speech and language link, and reviewing our current literacy and numeracy schemes, and identifying and implementing new and better schemes that are reputed to raise attainment. And of course, we're trying to upskill our staff, even though through shortages at this time in teaching and learning qualifications, to at least level 4. But going forward, as you've asked, we've put forward actually as the ministerial team for consideration for this budget additional funding to be able to have access or be able to push forward a bespoke program for education, not just for SEND and SEMH, I may just add, but it is to look at education overall to see how we can improve the standards within education for everybody. With that said, we would like to be able to enable a SEND lead in each school to ensure consistent monitoring and delivery of intervention programs and support students with SEND and SEMH, allow more sharing of resources to improve interaction and engagement, enabling the creation of special environments and spaces for students with SEND and SEMH. We're looking for the opportunity for trained teachers to deliver intervention programs in schools to support the low attainers rather than reliance on just the teaching assistants. So a lot of this is also connected to the improved connectivity that we have. But the support that we will require to be able to do this is adequate dedicated funding that allows for competing salary levels allocated to recruit to essential TC posts in the core areas of English, Math, Science, IT, teacher training and professional support in SEND, for a SEND coordinator, but also for the educational psychologist, and we're also looking at the school improvement officer if we can. And then specifically, we're looking at support for development of the links with an education institution in the UK to support teacher training and development. And then obviously we're looking at injection of a lump sum of funding to enable us to be able to look at procuring of resources to support curriculum development, modifications to existing school buildings if required to do so. We had, when we started, talk about a primary school review, whereby we will look at whether we could decrease the schools from 3 to 2. That is still ongoing. And, of course, improvement in the use of technology. And I don't want to go into too much detail on that one at the moment, but all I'll say is we've made some real good progress, and we hope that that will come to fruition very soon.
Thank you very much, Honourable Robert Midwinter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the Chief Minister for her response, and indeed I concur that great strides are being made in the educational sector to support those that are most vulnerable in our society. However, she mentioned curriculum development. So does she agree that the inclusion of non-academic and technical-based subjects, such as athletics, music and drama, can help to support the development of individuals with social, emotional and mental health-related needs?
Thank you. The response, Honourable Chief Minister.
The short answer to that, Honourable Robert Midwinter, is yes. It's about trying to get the core services and making sure that we've got sufficient resource to be able to do the core services, and then if we have additional funding, obviously those are the areas that we'd like to expand into.
Thank you very much. Next question, please.
The Honourable Gillian Brooks.
The Honourable Gillian Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the Chief Minister tell this House what work has been undertaken by her government to ensure that our health system focuses on preventative care?
Thank you very much. Honourable Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I think, as everybody in this room will know, I will hand over to Minister Henry for Health and Social Care. I think it's been mentioned from the time we came into these roles that preventative care is definitely where this government would like to head. But I will caveat that before Minister Henry obviously speaks. It is very, very difficult at this time to focus on preventative care, even though we know it's of utmost importance when we have an aging population and many percentages for where our healthcare stands at this present time does not make for easy reading and is a very big pressure on our recurrent budget. So I think there is a lot that Minister Henry will probably speak about now that we need to look at before we can actually move into preventative care. But that said, there's been strides taken, and I will stand here today and thank HSA already, the UK Health Service Agency, for the work they do with St Helena in raising our profile and obviously working with us to be able to see. I mean, Speaker Hoyle just said before how impressed he was with our hospital. We've done a lot in these 2+ years, and we have had additional help from FCDO with the critical equipment. So some of the equipment that Speaker Hoyle made mention of is a piece of equipment that came from that fund. But there is so much more we need to do before we actually turn the curve and then can focus more on preventative care. But Minister Henry, if you would like to speak more about. He said no, but so that means I've probably done a really good job, but no, I know he will go into more details on that.
Thank you very much. Next. Oh, Minister Henry, you do want to speak.
Yes, it was just a...
You have the floor.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Chief Minister, and my honourable friend for the question. So we'll start at the very beginning. The first thing the Chief Minister did to move in this direction was to hire me. So, but before I go into actually what is a far more emotive area and with some of the stuff I will present today, I just like to raise, like I always raise, the fact that because we are in a small community, when I do talk about the numbers and when I do talk about the effects of disease, they touch us all because of the high percentages within the community, which means we are surrounded by family members who do have some of these very complex illnesses. So I do understand that. So before we move into looking at what we can do about prevention, let me speak about the enormous problem, because it is enormous. It is, in some respects, crippling what our government is doing. So let's first look at, and I'll just speak of two particular issues which contribute to most of it, and number one being type 2 diabetes. We have over 1,000 people out of a 4,000 population with type 2 diabetes. A further 300 to 400 of them are pre-diabetic, and as we normally say at health, what about the ones we don't know about? So there's that bit. That with a very high level of morbid obesity contributes to all of the factors that I'm going to speak about today, which includes high blood pressure, cholesterol, liver disease, kidney disease, several types of cancer, including bowel disease, breast cancer, etc. Gastro reflux disease, gallstones, reduced fertility, osteoarthritis, sleep apnea, pregnancy complications, the list goes on. So, Speaker Hoyle, I do appreciate that our facility is an amazing facility, and like the Chief Minister, I thank the UK government for that facility. However, the complexities or the ending results of these diseases we cannot manage on St. Helena. They all result in very, very complex cases, which then we have to medevac or send to South Africa for secondary and tertiary care. So it is important to understand that while I am very impressed and proud of our hospital, it is that element that sits behind it. So before I move on then to look at what are we doing in prevention, we have then, as you recently know, set up a bowel screening, which is they're quite used to in the UK. But for St. Helena, prevention and early detection is definitely the way forward. We cannot afford the outcomes of these diseases, especially as we are now discovering them at such a younger and younger age. So we are working towards the early detection system. Bowel screening we set up, and we were inundated with the numbers of positive cases around that. We actually did not expect what we have now found. So we are now sort of backpedaling to try find specialists to come here to support that system. So that has, while we are discovering some, end-stage cancers, the real, for me, the thing I walk around knowing is that the fact that we have actually pretty much stopped 40 to 50 people in just the last 2 screenings from actually developing further cancer complications. So those people are now pretty much, on the right road, and it is hoped that they adapt some of the preventative measures going forward. The second most important thing is that, like the Chief Minister said, our budget is consumed about with sick care, and in that respect it has to be. But there is little or no money that is being now put around preventative measures because of that consumption. So one of the things I spoke to the UK, the lead UK HSA lady that was here, and someone who I know from previous visits, is about being able to help us with a public health specialist. Now, public health specialists are slightly different to what we have at the moment because they look at this in a holistic view. So all of the evidence I provided today, they will then pick that up and help bring our team together, because we have a dietitian, we have a we have a health promoter, we have a doctor who dedicates quite a bit of his time to the management of diabetes, etc. But it is all still, for me, a little bit sort of scattered. And by being able to bring a public health specialist over the top of that and bring our program together, I have it written on paper. We know what our strategy is, but as we know, writing pretty words on a piece of paper actually means nothing, and it's the delivery of the strategy. So I will leave it there and open to the rest of you for questions, but that's where we are at the moment in pushing with my case with preventative medicine.
Thank you, Honourable Minister Henry. For somebody who didn't want to speak, you did quite well there. Honourable Gillian Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Minister, can you say what impact your planned measures are likely to have, knowing the current staffing situation in health?
Honourable Minister Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you again, my honourable member. Those, in my opinion, are two separate elements. The current plans that I am putting in place, as most of you will know, won't help us immediately, but it will put us on the right road. Now, there are many of us who probably, because we've read articles around different things, think that preventive measure can take 15, 20 years, and yes, they can. But I've been recently in contact with leading specialists in the UK who have now shown that, putting diabetes in reverse and being able to stabilize those conditions can take as little as 5 years. So it's about bringing the community on board to make some of these more stronger, to put in place some of these more stronger measures to be able to do so. So the reality is, it is there. It is whether we can actually do it as a community, because this will be a community effort. The idea that, I only got a little bit of sugar, which is what we keep hearing at the hospital, right? And then me seeing the complications and all of the emotions around people needing to go off for medical referrals to get extremely complex operations done. There's a disparity between those both opinions, and I see it on a daily basis. So the current crisis or the current issues we have in the hospital is because of the outcomes of these crises. And as I often say, we are in the middle of the bump. If we don't afford the current medicine as well as put an effort into, and a proper effort into preventative medicine with the funding, we will continue to go down this road, and we will exhaust the resources within this current small health system.
Thank you very much. Honourable. Okay, I see two lights up. Honourable Gillian Brooks, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Minister, I know that I understand the upcoming budget is still pending, but can you just say if any monetary allocation has been identified that you would specifically need to deliver, if not all, but some of this preventative care?
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister Henry.
Thank you. Again, my honourable friend. We put budget allocations against the job roles that I mentioned earlier. But I am, and while it wasn't, it didn't go through as such this year, we have discussed, and we will look at the future of a potential ring fence around preventative medicine, because we have to. It is that necessary at the moment. So that is where we plan to go with a presentation to FCDO and A team moving forward.
Thank you very much. We just have 10 minutes or so to go, but I will allow a question from Honourable Robert Midwinter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll try and keep this one very brief. The Minister made reference to early detection being critical, and the Chief Minister talked about the equipment that we got through additional funding from the UK Government, which Sir Lindsay has also made reference to. So I just want to know, are we in the process of ordering any other diagnostic equipment?
Response, Honourable Martin Henry.
Thank you to my honourable friend for the question. At the moment, I would say no, because we are in the process now of actually utilising and drafting through the equipment we already have. There is, again, because of our small resource, it wouldn't be the right thing to go and say, let's go and try screen for 10 different cancers, and then we don't have the resources behind that to then move with it. What we've decided is that, and it was the right decision from some of the results we're getting back, is that we will move through each. So the screening for bowel cancer, for instance, and how we're going about that, it's in a beta phase. So there are complications. We have issues at the moment. Like I said, we didn't realize the numbers that would come through as positive. But taking reference from what we've done this time, we plan to use how we put this in action then to inform us moving forward with further screening. So, cancer is one. We already have loads of resources set up around diabetes, etc. I talked to you many months ago about the new interventions using the GLP-1 pens. Unfortunately, that stock is in such high global demand that we are probably at the bottom of the list for the small volumes we need, so we can't get access to that at the moment. But no, just to say, I think a systematic approach to this, to doing this, is really important, unless we'll inundate ourselves with further problems.
Thank you very much. I think we need to leave that one there. Next question, please.
The Honourable Andrew Turner.
The Honourable Andrew Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Honourable Chief Minister tell this Council how she intends to develop and modernise IT infrastructure and systems technology across SHG to benefit the public?
Thank you very much. Honourable Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I'll caveat this by saying I'm not an IT expert, so just be careful how deep down into technicalities we go with this one. So the development of an IT strategy to modernize IT hardware and systems technology is definitely something that we're looking at as we move forward to improve efficiencies. To facilitate, SHG will need to invest in technology that will complement and promote ongoing institutional reform and resolve outstanding communication issues. This will include the use of cloud-based services made possible with the connection to the fibre optic cable. I know you speak more about what's happening with the private sector, but I think that is more to do with the telecoms provider at this time, and obviously they are doing what they can with the business community, so it's bespoke programs that can be rolled out if interested. But if I can just talk a little bit more about how what we are doing as a government will hopefully assist St. Helena, so both the public service and the private, you might find that of interest. So the development of an IT strategy to modernize IT hardware and systems technology and thereby improving efficiencies, we hope to facilitate the need to invest in the technology, as I've just said, and this will include the use of cloud-based services made possible with the connection to the fibre optic. More specifically, it will enable the creation of an interface between HM Customs Executor System and the St. Helena Bank's ICT transaction systems, which will allow for the seamless exchange of information on declarations and payments, creation of an interface between the SHG's accounting system and the HM's Customs Executor System, which will facilitate the exchange of information and payments, creation of an enhanced ICT infrastructure, which will support the upgrade of the proposed electronic medical record systems for health, and the procurement of electronic point-of-sale systems, which will hopefully manage sales, stock, and admissions across all portfolios. So that's some idea of the things that we're going to be doing. But we did touch on it before. We are doing a lot this year as well now that we've got a person in post to be working more collaboratively with the state-owned entities, and through that I think IT will feature quite highly so that we can obviously improve the systems that we have available to those that work within government, but also the state-owned entities, but the wider private sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Andrew Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the Honourable Chief Minister for that response. I think it's great to hear that the end-user experience is at the focus of this work, and I hope very soon to be able to do much more of my forms online. You mentioned that there was a move to cloud solutions as opposed, I would assume then, to using on-island servers for a lot of government IT work. Is there an expected efficiency saving in that?
Thank you very much, Honourable Chief Minister.
So I think I will bring on to, it's actually what Honourable Robert Midwinter was talking about with health. So if we are successful in the bid we've put forward to UK government for our financial aid, we are hoping to projectise IT, health and education. So then we can look at get the experts in to be able to tell us how we can improve the way in which we do business. So to be able to tell you specifically what efficiencies will be there, I'd like to think it would be, but it would be wrong of me to say that this is exactly how much savings or efficiency savings there would be. Hence, it is so important for education, health and IT that we do those reviews.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chief Minister. Is your light on or not? Yeah, it is. Okay, we're just about out of time, but I will allow a question from you, which of course will have a response to that. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a quick one then. In all of this, obviously, there's going to be a lot more of people's personal information going up on online solutions, particularly with cloud-based solutions. What is the progress, if any, in moving towards data protection legislation and making sure that information is secure?
Thank you very much. Honourable Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can tell you that data protection is something that we've just spoken about and will go out on our next in-scope program next week on the 20th. And I know that the Deputy Chief Secretary and Alex Adams, who is the on-island rep, if I can put it that way, they will soon be going out and doing some consultations in the community and bringing some more information to us as elected members regarding the timelines and the phases of this project so people understand. So it will be a communications push, if I can put a campaign, similarly to how we did cybersecurity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, I have to protect the standing orders. We are out of time. Thank you very much. Time for some closing remarks, because I'd like to offer our friend the Speaker some closing remarks, but just before then. Honourable members, that concludes Minister's question time for February. Thank you very much for your very valuable contributions. Thank you to the listening public and all those listening in the chamber. We hope that you found the questions and answers relating to priority areas for 2024-2025 both interesting and informative, and that you are now better informed. As usual, we look forward to your feedback. In closing, may I invite the Speaker of the House of Commons, the Right Honourable Sir Lindsay, Hoyle MP, to say a few words. If he could, I believe the listening public and everyone in this Honourable House would like to hear those famous words, order, order. I need a lesson how to do that. Thank you, Bishop Dale, for prayers. Thank you, Governor Phillips, for being here. Thank you, Prince Andrew School students, for attending and for that powerful address. Thank you, SMS, for broadcasting these live proceedings, and a special thank you to Sir Lindsay Hoyle MP, Helen Wood, and David Clark. When you leave this beautiful island tomorrow, please know that you take with you our greatest admiration, respect, and affection. And Speaker Hoyle, do remember you will need to return with your team, maybe, to see how your she cabbage tree is growing. Over to you.
Order! Order! It's all right, boys, Mr. Speaker. Can I first of all say thank you, and thank you for the welcome that you've given to us, and thank you to allow and see how you do question time. I've got to say, you don't need order, order. It's the tolerance and the respect that is shown. It's something that I would love to take back to the United Kingdom. No interference, no shouting down. Mr. Speaker, your life is much quieter than mine in the chair. I envy what you've got. But of course, also can I say, I only have a canon to do prayers in public. You have a bishop. The power of the Speaker I'm in awe. But of course, thank you to everybody. Thank you to your listeners. Thank you to everybody who's allowed me to share part of your island life. It will not be forgotten. It will be remembered about the warmth, the generosity that has been shown to me and my team. And of course, most politicians do get invited twice. Once there, once to apologise. Hope it's not to apologise on my case, that we will come back. But I've got to say thank you to everybody who's made this visit so important. Who knows, depending on the weather, I might still be here a little bit longer. But allowing for that, I'm going to say thank you to you, Chief Minister, to all ministers, and of course, to what matters to me most is the scrutinising of the executive by the backbench. The power of the backbench is there, and may the select committees do more for it. And of course, Governor, thank you for you as well. But thank you to all the listeners, and thank you for the warm experience that I've had. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judith. I was going to say you didn't even need the mic. I wish you all a very pleasant day ahead. Thank you.